So today we have Paul Limongi with us, longtime uh, coach at Chaney and lifelong Westsider till you went west,
Yeah,
right? And uh, you've come in a number of years for Christmas, and this is kind of the first year that we've been doing this podcast. Circling back, talking about the history, and so Ron coordinated with you, and here we are.
yeah, it's awesome. Great setup.
Yeah, that's
Good to be here.
thanks, man. Dobe opens it up for us
Yeah, he's the man.
every couple weeks.
Yeah, love
Um,
it.
so usually we just kind of start with maybe get a little bit of background of your youth and your first introduction to Chaney and Chaney football, and then we just kind of go from there.
Yeah, good. Yeah, born and raised on the west side, Bon Air, South Bon Air, one house down from Gary Dinero's and the Dineros. So it was a great place to grow up, and had a great childhood. Um, it as I look back, it was really good. I enjoyed every second of it, and you didn't appreciate it at the time, which what you had when you're young, and just a great place to grow up. And you know, playing for Cheney was a huge deal, and you want to talk about looking up to some guys when you're a kid, going to those Fitch games and the Boardman games. Um, it was special, and when I got the age where after I left St. Brendan's, I couldn't wait to play for Cheney. It was a dream, and a bunch of us from St. Brendan's, went up there, and some of our guys from St. Brendan's went to Ursuline, as always seems to be the case. But I remember going up there and working out, going into my ninth grade year, and we weren't sure if we were going to have a freshman team or not. And we ended up having a freshman team, but it was an eye-opening experience just to be on the team. And coach noticed me actually. I had a Mount Union shirt on, and that was our first, you know, kind of get to know you experience. And I went to a Mount Union football camp in eighth grade, and wore it to one of the workouts, and that's how I kind of got noticed. And just worked as hard as I could. Played all 4 years. Went through the transition with Coach Matey retiring and Coach coming in my junior year, and that's when it started. The foundation was being built. It was something that I still think about today. Still drives me with everything I do, and had a fantastic group of guys I played with. Love them to death, and we may not have won like we wanted to. But I tell you what, we enjoyed the experience and got every single thing out of it we could. And anybody who played in those 88, 89, 87 will tell you the same thing. We weren't trading in for nothing. And after that, I had the opportunity. Coach asked me to kind of stay on, and I worked as a freshman coach the year after I graduated in '89, and just worked my way up. Just doing little things and helping Dobe with the D line and the freshman team, the scout team, and a couple years later, one or two, I got the D line open. Did that for 7 years and learned a lot of great football. And man, those were great times. We really started getting it rolling, so it was great to be on that level and seeing Chaney have so much success, not only in the Mahoning Valley but in the state. And a lot of great players then I graduated from Youngstown, and me and a couple buddies were eating wings one night, and we talked about going on a cruise, and just for fun. And a couple guys backed out, and me and Lance joined, went on a cruise, and I happened to meet a girl from Elkhorn, Nebraska, the first night, and started seeing each other, on this big cruise ship all the time, and by the end of the week we exchanged numbers, and the goal was to live here because I didn't want to go anywhere. I wanted to replace Coach. That was my dream. And 10, 15 years later, and then it just happened to work out where we got married and moved to Omaha, and that was 25 years ago. And the funny thing is I wasn't planning on coaching anymore. when I moved there. I actually did a lot of landscape work. I had a brother-in-law that had a lawn company. So the first 2 summers, falls, I worked, doing landscaping, teaching, because I thought it would never be the same. I just thought, I'm not with coach. I'm not with the guys I played with, coach with. It just, I don't know anybody. And then one night, I told my wife, Amy, I said, I got to coach something. I got an 8th grade fresh something, and I couldn't get a job. And then finally, one of the Omaha schools had a position, and went there, worked hard, kept my head down, did everything, and just rose up, to becoming a head coach. So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, and when you went out, did you get a teaching job out there, and that's when you kind of transitioned? And
I did not have a teaching job until when I got out there, so it was kind of scary. Yeah, I didn't. I got the job my first week out there. I got it at an alternative school, which I taught at Stambaugh Alternative School, Harrison Transitional. So I was experienced with troubled kids a little bit. So I got the job and did that for 7 years. But yeah, I was a little nervous going out there. We just bought a house, and she was working, Amy was working, but I didn't have a job yet. No.
Circling back to the St. Brendan's thing, one thing that always kind of interests me is the dynamic of how certain guys went the Chaney route and how certain guys went the Ursuline route. What was kind of that deciding factor for you?
Yeah, it wasn't. I was just, even as a kid, we went to Chaney games. I knew I was going to Chaney from the get go. I don't think even if I wanted to go to Ursuline, which I didn't, my parents wouldn't have sent me to Ursuline. So they kind of, I was born and raised Chaney, and and so were my good buddies. All my good buddies, some went to Ursuline, but we knew going up who was going to divide, who's going to go to the Ursuline route, who's going to the Chaney route, and it just kind of happened, and we kept in touch with those guys. But it was always that little bit of fork in the road. See you
sure.
later. But I think a lot of my class did go to Chaney. We lost a few, but yeah.
And then one of the things that I was thinking about was you mentioned it that you played for both Coach Matey and for Ron as head coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And how was that kind of transition in terms of, Ron's talked a lot about it, like, hey, when we came in, we were trying to, replicate, put our own stamp on it, but we wanted to be more like Red Angelo.
Mm-hmm.
and that. How was that experience as a player to see that happen?
Yeah. Well, obviously, I was in, as a freshman and sophomore with Coach Matey, and Coach Matey was, obviously a legend, and I really enjoyed my experience with him. But you kind of got a feel that it was going to end for him. I don't know if it was rumors or just kind of, we had a feel that, Coach was in the wings, and it may happen, when I was a freshman, it may happen when I was a sophomore. You kind of knew it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was good friends with Lance Julian, and his dad was on the board. So we always kind of, the flavor was out there that Coach Matey might be stepping down. And the first 2 years with Coach Matey, it was hard. It was tough. But there was something different when Coach took over, and we knew it going in, because, sometimes if Coach wasn't there on a certain practice, we'd have a tough practice. But then when Coach's Cavalier pulled up and he was running, say, conditioning that day, it was a different level. Mm-hmm. And, we knew going in we were going to work our tail off, and we were ready for it. And but it was something. So practices were different. I think, towards the end there at my sophomore year, there was a couple days on Wednesdays we went half rack. And usually you don't go half rack on Wednesday, you go full gear. And, I know Coach and some of the other guys were like, it was kind of like, oh, we should go full gear, we should go half rack. You could tell there was a little division on what we should do that Wednesday. And we always came down from, 8th period, and man, we full gear, we half rack, and things kind of I don't know. You could just tell there's going to be a change soon, and that winter, coach took over. I don't know if we knew at the banquet that my sophomore year that coach was going to. We don't know. We knew going into my junior year things are about to change, and we were hoping, that coach was going to get it. There were some other guys that names were out there too, and we were all hoping, is it going to be coach so we could, we couldn't wait to get it going under him.
Yeah, and then so we've talked at length a couple times about that 87, 88 transition and how the numbers, the wins and losses didn't necessarily reflect the achievement and competition that took place.
Yeah.
A field goal here, not scoring offensively there, nip-tuck games for his first 3 years.
Yeah.
And how do you, as a player, how did you guys navigate that?
Yeah, it was bigger than just winning. Wins and losses were important to us, but it was so much bigger than that. Like, it was about like we wanted to go into every game, and we had an expectation that we just needed to play extremely hard. And if we played as hard as we could every game, and we did what we were coached to do, that no matter what, coach and the other guy, they would be proud of us. We just knew that. I knew that. So it wasn't like we were down and out, and it was obviously frustrating, but we knew we were better than our record. We knew that we had a good football team, and the ball didn't bounce our way a lot of times, but we kept battling. We never got down. We were excited to go to practice. We were excited to play. We were excited to be Chaney football players, and I know I'm speaking on behalf of myself, but I think that the guys that I played with would say the same thing. We're extremely proud, and we were extremely proud playing for Chaney, and there was just so much tradition. You just wanted to go out and play as hard as you could, and eventually things would turn over, and we kind of knew that, and the coaches would say that it's coming, we're close. And it might have took a little longer than we thought or we liked, but we just kept battling. And every week, we thought we could win. We went in confident, never intimidated. We felt we were, because of what we did, how we prepared was unmatched. So we knew we might not win, but we're going to be just as tough as who we played, and we're going to hit just as hard. And we played our best games against Steubenville, Fitch. Boardman. Those were our best games, and the city was tough. And those city games for those 3 years, even my first year coach, they were tight. It was a coin flip on some of them. And we just, crazy stuff happened.
It really took a special group to deal with that transitioning. You're bringing in, even though I was on the staff, I brought in pretty much new. I mean, as far as coaches, and as Paul indicates, I could still see. I believe it was Lance Julian at down in Steubenville, kind of after the game, looking up, and when I'm shaking his head, patting him on the head, trying to console him. Looking at me and saying, what do we got to do? What do we got to do? And I think he knew the answer to that. Just hang in, hang in and keep believing. We knew that there had to be a crawling stage, and unfortunately, that's why I think the wins didn't come in some of those close ones. And as I've indicated in the past, that was a learning curve for us too. We were experiencing as a staff, being new, trying to get our feet under ourselves.
Yeah, and I don't want to get stuck on this, but the thing that always kind of intrigues me is, one of the things I remember you talking about, Ron, was you said, I always want the investment to be so big in these kids that the option of quitting is not there, right? If they stick it out, the investment is so great, They're never going to check out. They're never going to quit.
Absolutely, and that buy-in is all about 87, 88, and 89. They bought in.
And thinking about that, like, you get to a point where you're playing, and I can't remember what Steubenville was at the time. They were either number 1, number 2, like they were state ranked. You lose by a field goal, or you don't get a call here. The desperation that must create, being so close, everything that you're invested, and just coming up short, like that has to be one of those things where it's like, I don't know what to do, right? That would be tough.
Well, yeah, exactly, and it's one thing for a coach to have those emotions,
Yeah.
okay, and feel that, but what a special group it is for young men, players to be able to withstand that, and that's testimony to Paul and the rest of the guys on that team.
And then kind of the last thing, you're in the thick of it. You've been a head coach for a number of years, and I've talked to Ron about this. At some point, all those things you preach, there has to be some sort of fruit from it. Because at some point it becomes like, yeah, he said this for the last 4 years, and it's not coming. And I think it's even harder today because it's that instant gratification. You might get 2 years, but you're not getting 5 years like that.
Yeah.
And that was always something I kind of thought about from almost 30 years ago now, that there was a little more patience in the process than what it might be today.
Yeah, process. That's everybody. You got to attack the process, and the only thing you can control is your reaction to things, and the outcome it comes later. And those years when we were playing, it was just what kept us motivated. I think was our belief of Chaney, our belief in the neighborhood and the tradition. We just kept playing. We just kept playing hard every week. We just kept playing and playing, and it was frustrating. But it was like something bigger than just wins. Like something was like you could taste that something was going to come about.
Yeah.
And it was, and constantly it's bigger than just football. It's going to be, you're going to use this stuff when you get older, when you become a man, when you become a father, when you become a husband. Like that's what really counts. It's not, the true success of a team isn't, what it looks like at the end of the year. The true success of a team is 20 years down the road, and what they become and how they live their life. And I believe that's what it was about, and I think a lot of other guys did, and it kept us going. And as a coach today, yeah, you say all this stuff, but you better have something to back you. And eventually, if you do things right, I was lucky enough that by going off the program philosophies that I learned as a player and used as a coach, the wins will come if you do things the right way. The wins will come sooner or later. That's my experience.
Yeah, we often talked about climbing that hill, climbing that mountain, and relating it to the old World War II movies where the guys are throwing themselves over the barbed wire so that the next group can advance, and that was the ideology behind it all, and like I said, it takes you can have all the philosophy and all the cliches in that none of them matter if your players don't buy into it.
Yeah.
And, we were fortunate that Paul's gang laid the foundation for it all.
We were just happy to get through doubles.
Yeah.
That was a victory for us. I think one year we were going to get T-shirts made that I survived double sessions. I mean, we saw that as victories, just getting through a Tuesday practice.
Yeah, those were, those 7-4s. I can only imagine what it was like when he first took over. And it was full of piss and vinegar.
Yeah, there were some. Yeah, he was. I saw a segment that, about you practiced and you go in, you shower, you lay the mats down in the gym, you eat your lunch, and you're out until you get the call, and it's like and you got to make sure you picked up everything from lunch, because if not, if there were scraps, papers, I mean, they added to the 40s at the end of the day. But by the end of the day, you were just happy it was the end of the day, and you just did it. You didn't even think about it. You just did it. Whatever they say, you just did it, because you knew you were almost done. You almost made another day, and you just kept going, and you got the rest for a little bit.
Ron, what kind of, as Paul graduates, and I think 88 All City, right? All City team. As Paul graduates and he's kind of transition out, what did you see that you wanted him to come be part of the staff?
I think it was, being him playing for us. You could see that he was almost born to coach. I mean, it was kind of in his DNA, it just seemed like, okay, you're not gonna go on to play. Okay, go on to you're gonna go to school, but you're not gonna go on and play. And when that became obvious, well, we need a guy, and who would be better? And when Paul was the guy. So yeah, he was such a good player for us. Made the All-Star team and All City, and when it came time, that opportunity seemed like the thing to seize.
And was it your goal to go into education, or was it like, hey, I just want to coach, and so I'm going to teach? And what was your thought?
Yeah,
process?
about that time, and then in my senior year, junior year, I kind of thought that, I love the game, and teaching was something that I saw myself doing, and definitely coaching, and just hoping to get an opportunity, and just like playing for Chaney, I felt great sense of pride, but coaching for Chaney, just being there and being on the staff as a young kid, and I loved every second of it. I loved the meetings, I loved the practices, I loved the off-season stuff that we did. I loved, meeting once a month as a staff. It was something that, I loved every second of it, and I knew I wanted to make a career out of it as I got in that first year coaching. And then it just kind of got, just snowballed year after year, and I saw myself, wanting to do this forever, and I saw myself wanting to do it forever at Chaney, to be honest. And I thought there would be just no other place. It was always us versus everybody else. I mean, it's just, you're not us. I mean, and you just took so much pride, and that's the way you coached, and so that was kind of how it was. I was very thankful for the opportunity, but I loved every second of it, especially the eating. We did a lot of eating on staff. Did a lot of eating, and there's nothing I didn't like. We worked hard, but it was fun, and laughed, and it was a good time.
And I think we talked about this, but when we lost to DeSales in '97. And I went to my wife's reunion, Chaney reunion that night, and kind of sat in a corner by myself, and you're tripping over your chin. I mean, you just lose a really tight game. But that night, I don't know if you remember this, but we were out afterwards, and who do we run into? This Paul and some of his teammates from the early years, and who better to pick your chin up off the ground than those guys, and they really did. I mean, it was they were excited. Obviously, they were disappointed that we lost, but they were excited that where we had advanced to.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'll always remember, how they really picked me and my wife up that night.
And that was the first year I was gone. So I wasn't. So I came home for the game. I was in Omaha. That was my first year that I left. So we were all together at the 13th frame, and yeah, coach comes strolling in. It's a great night.
So, and that was one of the things I wanted to ask you. You know, I think you kind of have a unique perspective on, you know, you were part of that transition, the struggle, building the foundation, right? As Ron says, the foundation of toughness was laid, and the program. A lot of those guys got to see the success just kind of by watching, whereas you experienced the difficulties as a player, and then you, I mean, really the turnaround, the flip as a coach. To be able to coach and be part of that is special, but then also to, like Ron and some of the other guys, to feel how the desperation of wanting it, and then boom, you're here. How did that feel?
Yeah, that was well. One thing, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I didn't go through that. I think both as a player and as a coach, to see that transition, that process unfold right in front of my eyes, and what it took to be successful on a daily basis was something that was really gratifying. And you know, even my first year coaching, we was 89, 90, and we were still trying to get over that speed bump, and we just kept working. And then, you know, we got some good kids, and they played hard, and we just got it rolling. And you know, but we never cut any corners. We tried to outwork everybody. You know, Coach always said that, you know, there might be smarter guys than us out there, but they're not going to outwork us on the weekend to get ready, and they're not going to out prepare us, and we're going to get our guys ready. And we took great pride in that, and that's why I think we were so unified too. I mean, no one. It was just us. Like, when we went to functions, we sat together. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we sat together. We would be at, you know, the corn feed every year, and everybody else is mingling, and it's just us. And it was just something that you just learned a lot of football, and you had a good mix of personalities, and knowing that helped me assemble my staff. That you need, you know, you need a Pope, you need a Mick, you need a Steve Z, you need all these different personalities to mesh, and to help kids reach their full potential, and it was just great to be a part of, and you know, being part of that Fitch game where we won 91 or 92, and we finally beat them, was one of the, you know, you can't beat that feeling, and you know, and beating Buchtel and some of those big games that we had, and just being so happy, and you know, having a staff that it wasn't about who's the coordinator, who gets it was like, I don't know if you see that anymore. I don't even know if I have that on my staff, where it's like it doesn't matter who gets the credit. Like, we're all in this together. That's what I'm trying to get with my guys. But we had that there, and it was it meshed so well, and I think that's why we were successful, and that's what I try to do today. So it was great.
You know, to your point, one thing I can remember, and I didn't really recognize it when I was on staff, but as I got out and became a head coach, you talk to other guys, and then you're at different places. The one thing that, and as I reflect back, like, you never had offensive guys versus defensive guys. Like, hey, you know what? You guys got to stop them here. Well, you got to put, you know, another touchdown up, and like, that never occurred. Now, I know we coached both sides of the ball,
Right.
but there was never that divisiveness. There was never any of that, and I think that was a testament to Ron, because it was just, like you say, it's us.
Yep.
You know, and I always thought that was really key from a staff standpoint, because that whole piece really creates some lines of division and pointing the fingers.
Yeah.
Well, I think you both know that you know, managing multiple personalities and thoughts on how to coach. That's the whole deal. You know, that's what it is to be a head coach. I mean, you like I said, how else do you deal with the downsides? You know, when things don't go right like they often do. How do you deal with that? I mean, certainly, you wallow in your family, and your family helps pick you up. But the guys that you're spending all this time with, if you're not all on the same page, and you're not all thinking in the same direction, and you're not all leaving your egos outside, that would make it, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, really unbearable.
But I think that's the reason the experience was special, because that doesn't happen very often.
Mm-hmm. And it helps when you got coaches that played at the school too. That, I think that's a big thing, because they bleed the most, they believe the most. That's my staff now. I got some guys that played at the school where I coach, and they give it everything. Not that others don't, but 'cause that's not the case. But the tone is set by the guys who lived it and who love it and unconditionally. And yeah, I mean, it comes from the head coach. Just bringing that mantra down that we're in this together. That it's about relationships, about building things, family, brotherhood, and believing. So, but it's hard to do. It's hard to find good coaches today.
Yeah, that's a fact. I don't think I ever, referring to staff, ever said, this guy coached for me. I always I try to make a mental note and always refer to it as we coached together.
Sure. Yeah.
And that I think, and you guys can attest to this, I think that you feel that, as when you're part of a staff, you feel that, and
yeah, no, for sure. But there are definitely times when you're in the thick of it, and you as an assistant coach, especially a young one, and you go, I have no idea what we're going to do here. And you look down the table to the old man, but he'll know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, and that's so. Yeah, you definitely empowered us, and you certainly never had yes men on staff. That's for sure. But there was always like, I don't know what to do, but he will.
Yeah. And I still think of that today. Like, I'm in certain situations. How would Coach react to this? How would he handle this? How would we have handled this back then? And it helps you, because you're only as good as you're a reflection of where you've been. Mm-hmm. And the bad coaches that are out there, because maybe they didn't have very good teachers to teach them how to coach and to teach them what to do. Like it's a lot of who I am and even who Coach was is a reflection of who came before. I mean, all of us are in that boat. We're just lucky to be in a tremendous spot to learn the game the right way that I think we believe in. Maybe others won't, but that's what we believe in, and it just kind of drives you.
And that's how that's how the tradition part ties in. So with the phenomenal success that Paul's had, there's a bit of Chess and Red and Ed and myself and yourself and Mick and on and on. So that tradition will continue to live.
Well, I'll tell you, my pregame speech before the state championship this year was, I wanted my players to know how proud I was of them, but I wanted them to know the nervousness that I felt, because I told them my coach will be watching you tonight. And by them, and I still want to make him proud through you. So it's kind of like, everything kind of snowballs with it. And I don't know if they understood it, what I was trying to say, but
it was important that you had to say it.
I needed to say it for myself.
Yeah.
And
I get you.
And a lot of the things he said in pregames, we all know how good those pregame talks were. I repeat them. I say the same. I mean, I never met Bobby Teets in my life, but the story he gives with the wristband, like I've said that story to my team, and they know who Bobby Teets is from me reiterating what he said that he did on that snowy Friday night against Mooney, and just keep those traditions never die, even in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I was going to ask you about was, what are some of those things? You've been a head coach at 2 different schools, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What are some of those things that you've brought as a player, as a coach at Chaney that you've kind of taken with you out there?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is I have a philosophy statement or a mission statement. It's effort and toughness. It's ET, and we have it on our T-shirts. We have it on our helmets, stickers, and that's Chaney. That's Westside. That's Youngstown. That's how I was brought up. If all else fails, ET is what we're about. That's what we're trying to instill, because I think that I was taught that if you have great effort in everything you do, no matter what you're doing, playing football, in class, working, marriage, being a father, shoveling the drive, if you have great effort, you're going to be successful. And if you're tough, mentally and physically, bad things happen. How are you going to handle them? Tough to make tough decisions, to do what's right, not what's popular. And you kind of live that mantra. You're going to be successful. I think you're going to be a successful man, and that's Chaney. That's Westside. That's my father. That's all that stuff, and that's in our teams. And it was ET at Omaha Burke, and it's ET at Omaha Westside, and that's the biggest concept. And playing with a lot of toughness, physicality of the game, doing things because I don't know if the purpose is there, but you need to do them because it's hard. Sometimes you just got to do things in practice because it's hard, and there might not be the best end result you want, but you want the guys to be able to get through it together and feel that they accomplished something that was extremely difficult, because those types of things are what can help you win those big games. We do the quicks, the quick cows. We do, hit pride, hit Westside, stuff. All types of stuff. We just went Christmas caroling. Took the team 2 weeks ago. We go Christmas caroling. Matter of fact, my team this morning helped at the Open Door Mission about service and giving back and helping the community and, thanking the community for letting us play this great game. Coach always used to say, and, and I remember just establishing those relationships that weren't just with football. I had a relationship with Coach. I felt like I could go to him with school issues, with any type of issue. I thought I could go with him, and that's how I want my players to feel. They could come to me with anything they need help with because of those relationships. I mean, I'm not going to be their friend, and he wasn't our friend, but we knew if we had a problem, we can go to him, and I want my players to feel that way too. So it's everything. I mean, our program is Westside. Our program is everything we did at Chaney, pretty much.
How talking about a little different dynamic off topic here, but coaching together so long, when did you feel like it changed from being or did it ever change from being kind of a player to head coach to when maybe a peer or that friendship?
Oh, well, I don't know if it's ever changed. I mean, it's still I don't know. With me, maybe with some. I think with the other guys, it's been easier transition. Obviously we're friends now, but I still want to make him proud. I could never disrespect him. I'd be very, I could never do stuff like that, like a normal friend to friend relationship. But every time I come to town, we see each other. We call, we keep staying in contact. When I got sick, he texts me all the time and helped me get through that. It's a phenomenal relationship. I wouldn't be who I am or where I'm at without his guidance, and with a lot of guys. I mean, that I played with and coached with, I don't know if it ever really truly.
There's always that. You see the human. You see You see that he's actually like a human.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, plus he was my coach too, which is a little. if he wasn't didn't coach me, it'd be a little easier. But he
Right,
was my
right,
coach,
right.
so I mean, it's great. I enjoy it. I love it. So, you know,
What were some of, like you got a chance to be part of the first city title, Ron's,
Yep,
right,
Ron's,
in
yeah.
'90. Which here, this is amazing, and I didn't realize it. The first playoff team, 91, the first playoff win. 96, you were part of that undefeated team, right? So that would have been
that was my last year.
yeah,
I think.
last year.
Yeah, 10-0. We lost to Canfield.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was tough.
Some pretty neat
Yeah.
things first to share along with, as the up and to the right trend started to happen.
Yeah. It was great seeing it. It was the happiest times of my life from a coaching standpoint were at Chaney, just with achieving those victories, because it was all of us. It was, I mean, you truly felt it was for the Westside, it was for the school, it was for the players, it was for my guys I played. It was like everybody, and it was so joyous and to finally, get it to where we always knew we could go, and then it just snowballed, and every year we were 8-2, 9-1, 10. I mean, it was like, and kids started having this expectation. We're beating Fitch, we're beating Boardman, we're going to be city champs, and I remember Coach or Pope saying before a city championship, we own this league. And I mean, having that demeanor that we established, that when you go on the field thinking you're going to win all the time, and believing, and it's special, and the kids savored. They took that and attacked it, and it was just great to be a part of. Yeah, it's awesome.
One of the things that I think, so you talked about the West Side, and I think that what we're kind of losing, and maybe in this area, just the dynamic is, you don't have those neighborhood schools anymore, right? With open enrollment, a couple private schools, that's always been there, but West Side kids went to Chaney or Ursuline, South Side kids went to South, and there was family lineage.
Right.
And like you're talking about, guys played there, their parents played there, their brothers played there. Yeah. Do you see, and I think it's just some of the change of the city and how things are going with the population, do you guys have that element out in Nebraska?
Well, part of the attraction of switching jobs, leaving Omaha Burke and going to Omaha Westside, is there at where I'm at now. There's a lot of tradition. It's a community within a community.
Okay.
A lot of support. I mean, homecoming's a big deal. Homecoming is truly homecoming. There's a parade. It's an all-day affair. A lot of my players now, their fathers, their brothers played there. They love it. They want to keep it going. The games are packed with a good crowd. It was my draw, because it reminded me of back home. And if you grew up in District 66, where I coached Westside, you're going to Westside, and that's the way it is. We got to keep that going and keep that tradition alive as well. But that was something that really attracted me to this new job that I have, because there's just so much pride in the school, in everything, not just football. It's choir and band and academics and everything. So it's refreshing to be a part of something like that, and it really helped rejuvenate my career a little bit, to get me excited, as I head down the valley here a little bit. But is it like growing up on the West Side and playing? I don't know if it's quite that magical, but it's kind of close. It's good. It's good to have. I'm glad we have that at West Side, because that West Side of Youngstown's pretty special. And they what's great about it is, in Omaha, they know Youngstown. I mean, they know the tradition of Youngstown. They know about the steel mills. They know about the coaches and the players that came out of there. And it makes me feel good when they say, "Where are you from?" And when colleges come in, and I say, "Well, I'm born and raised in Youngstown, Ohio," and it's kind of like you get a little respect of where you came from, and that's always so prideful to me. Plus, I don't think I talk very much like someone from Omaha. So they could probably tell them from that way anyway. But that's that prideful. I don't think you see that anymore because of open enrollment.
Yeah.
Guys switching schools. Kids transferring if they don't get their way. It's tough. And you said it, instant gratification. They don't want to work and compete for a job. They want to be given it, and you got to really, have a culture where, cultivation transpires, and you got to have coaches that believe in that, so you could keep your team and the integrity of the game alive. It's not like how it was.
And that's something I wondered. I was talking to Ron about this before. How do you? I never coached with you, but just knowing how the dynamics of the Chaney program and the expectations, and how do you navigate some of those 80s, 90s demands and program with today's kids? And I'm not talking about running 90 40s, but just the do it because they said do it.
Yeah, that's tough to do. Yeah. I think it starts, you got to have a strong culture, and the kids got to understand your culture. I mean, you got to explain what it is, what it means to give great effort, what it means to be a brother, what it means to be a family, and you got to do things. Coach always said you got to do things off the field together. So you got to really get to invest in each other as human, as friends first, and then you cultivate your culture every single day. You got to talk about it, and you got to be, teach them these key words of, what is great effort, what is perseverance, what is, loyalty, what is all those things, and you just teach it, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and but what I have used is just a strong culture, and a brotherhood, and doing those things off the field, because if you do, and having like coach the pillars, family and faith, and community, and school, and then program, having that, knowing that if you take care of the top three, winning's going to be a byproduct of all those other things. I strongly believe that if you take care of the community, the faith, your loyalty, all those stuff, then you're going to have a good program and you're going to be successful. So I think it's just constant cultivating of a culture and establishing those relationships, so they don't want to leave. They don't want to leave. They'll be able to get through those tough times. But it is, you can't. I don't coach how I did 10 years ago because more kids don't want to. They rather play fall baseball.
Mm-hmm.
They rather do this. They rather do that. And you got to push the envelope, but you can't push it too far across the table.
Yeah.
You won't have kids out. So I want my players to take great pride in being the toughest team in the state, or trying to be the most physical team in the state, the hardest working team in the state. Like, that's what, if you don't want those goals, you can't play for me or at Westside. And if that's wrong, then maybe it's time for me to get out.
But you touched on the togetherness, and isn't that the key thread of coaching? You spend all this time together, okay, in season, off season, okay. So your free time, we want to cut into that too, okay. But we want to cut in it for a purpose, for you to be together and do something positive together. And isn't that thread, that togetherness, what gets you through all the tough times, and lends itself to success? So my point being that I think that is probably the to teach that togetherness is what should be the main point of everyone's coaching philosophy that in this game. I mean, it really served us well, and obviously it's serving you well because you got 2 state championship rings, and you've had tremendous success.
Well, it's a reflection, and I'm humbled by it. But we do a lot of things, like we take our kids camping for a night. We do a big campfire chat where we talk about brotherhood in the program. We do it like a senior retreat. We do movie nights. We try to do those things to establish that loyalty and that love for each other, that brotherhood. So when it gets tough, or when someone might not start this week because he got outcompeted by somebody else, they're able to handle it. And like I said, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So,
Hearing you say that, didn't we try that?
What?
Didn't we try that, like sleeping on the field before a double?
Maybe. Yeah, we thought we were gonna do it, but we didn't do it. Not when I played. We were thinking about doing it.
Okay.
And I think at the last minute, it flaked out.
I know that we looked into
Yeah.
that.
Oh yeah, that might have been the first year. That might have been '87.
We looked into that I looked into that fresh air camp down there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
To see if we could hold doubles there
Oh okay.
Yeah.
and stay there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then
It's like a camp thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then you got into meals and that type
Yeah.
of thing.
You're
and-
trying to replicate Junction Boys.
Yeah,
Come
that-
back with 15
Jesus.
warriors.
Yeah, maybe we should.
Yeah.
Maybe it's good that didn't happen.
Who used to do that was Lindy Laurel, who was a legendary coach out of Newcastle. He used to take his guys up in the mountains.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's where they do their doubles. They'd have like a 2-week camp.
Jeez.
That's old school there.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is something we never asked, Ron. How does number of guys have went on to be head coaches and kind of taken not just your program but the tradition and the philosophy and all those core principles. And I don't know if you ever thought about how does it feel for you when you see guys go on and have programs and do that. And you've had a number of them that have went on and pursued a head coaching experience. And
Well, it's tremendously gratifying. I mean, because of the closeness that we've established over the years, you feel a part of it. Any successes that we've had, I'm sure that you feel, and Paul feels, that, whether you were on staff or not on staff, you're a part of that because you are a part of the tradition, and it's I think it's the tradition that drives all that. And when I see Paul's success and all the guys that coached with me that went on to become head coaches, that's I swell up with pride. I'm just so proud to be associated with them, and I don't know any other word that would describe that other than true friendship.
Well, I know when I left, to go to, even though I obviously was looking forward to my, getting married to my wife and starting a new chapter, it was a sad day leaving. I remember my wedding reception at Mr. Anthony's, and all the guys, we got a group picture, and I still have that group picture from that night hanging in my basement. That was as much excitement I had for getting married. There was a heavy burden on my heart for leaving this, but luckily talked to Coach about it. I mean, he helped me make a decision on doing that. So that was part of the great relationship we did have. And he also said, make sure your wife, and I tell this to all my coaches that are at that age of getting married, make sure your wife understands what you do before you get married.
that's the truth.
Never forget that statement. So I had that conversation with with my wife, and I tell my assistants that are at that life stage to do the same, because it could be tough if you don't have a wife that understands the commitment it takes to run a football team, and I do, thank goodness. But that was good advice he gave that I use.
Do you so this past year, new school, very successful. You guys won a state championship. Is that division? Would it be like Division I? Okay.
It's the big one. Yep.
And what was that experience like, going through a new program, having some success, capping it off with that?
Yeah, it was very gratifying. It was a tough, challenging year. It sure as heck wasn't easy. Obviously, we had to build that toughness that I thought we needed to go over the hump. I think early on we didn't have that, and it took some time, and it took the guys to get to know me and my philosophy and how I coach. That was probably a little different from the previous coach, who did a great job and had great coaches, but it just took some time for everything to get the way we needed it to be, to have that type of year. And every day our focus was just get a little better, believe a little bit more, talk about the culture, what we're trying to establish, and we just wanted to play our best football in November and just keep climbing. We had a loss to a team, North Platte, that maybe we shouldn't have lost, but we did, and we just didn't go our way, and I think from that losing might have been the best thing for us to kind of, we're not as good as we think we are. We need to pay attention to detail, all that stuff, and we finished the regular season with one loss, and before we started we have 16 teams in the tournament.
Okay.
And we were the number one seed, and I told the team at our meeting, scouting report meeting, I said there are 16 very good teams, and the team that's the toughest will win this tournament. And that was our goal, to be the toughest team in the tournament. And we, at the end of the year, we were the toughest team in the tournament. And we won. We played a great opponent. We won on a 3 seconds left, 42-yard field goal to win it. And we knew it was going to be that way, but it's a testament to our kids believing in each other and in the culture to get it done. So it was kind of like this, but we met our goals where we wanted to we wanted to leave nothing in the basement at the end of the year, and I don't think we left much in the basement. So.
Yeah. I watched some of those highlights. That was from the state championship. That was a pretty exciting game,
Yeah.
and to win it on a field goal at the end.
Oof, yeah.
Been on some receiving ends of those field goals.
Yeah, I hear you.
So to put one to bed for somebody else probably had to feel pretty good.
Yeah, and everybody said, well, you didn't show much emotion. Well, first I want to make sure it was in, and then I want to make sure there were no flags.
Yeah.
And then I want to make sure it was in again, and then I said it went in, right? And then I got excited. But just wanted to make sure everything was okay, because it was just, you're that close, you don't want, stay cool, calm, and collective till it's official. But yeah, it was a great night.
What do you, so just kind of the last thing, one of the things that we've kind of talked about on here, just the legacy of Chaney football. What do you feel the legacy of Chaney football is in your mind?
Toughness. I think it's about toughness. I think it's, about physicality. I think it's about doing the hard things, taking the hard road. I think that's what I take from it. I think Westside. I think that's Chaney. I think Chaney was always an extremely physical football team. No matter what era or what year, you were gonna get hit pretty hard, and just toughness is something that when I think of Chaney, that's what I think of, and being away from it a little bit, I hope that's still the case. They seem to be having some really good success, and I'm happy for that, and I'm grateful for that, and hopefully they're keeping that toughness part, which I'm sure they are going, and that's what I think about. And the guys that played before and that I coached with, and that I coached, tough kids, tough guys, man. So that's what I love about it.
I concur. I wholeheartedly agree, and that has always been the earmark of Chaney, and you know, seeing you play, your team play in the state championship, and seeing your teams at Burke, you know, I think that what you're selling, they're buying, and it's great to see. And like I said, we share in your success because we feel it and we know what you're teaching, and it's great to see. And you hit it on the head. You know, seeing Chaney play a couple times this year, you know, they you know, I think they're bringing that what was lost for a while, but they're bringing it back.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, appreciate you coming and doing this. It was interesting for me to just be able to sit down and kind of pick your brain on some of these things, and so it's kind of cool to hear that perspective. So,
Well, I appreciate you having me on. This is a great thing you're doing for Chaney football. I'm sure there are a lot of guys out there that you know, are happy you're doing this, and really kind of, you know, getting a great. It brings people back, you know, and makes them reflect, and it's pretty special. So, great job doing it.
Now, you're pretty special too, and we really do appreciate you taking the time during the holidays here, and it's you know, it's always great to see you and share those memories.
Yes, sir.